I think it's a challenging book, right? And I especially think for white people, it confronts them in a way that they are not used to, which we kind of talked about. And I think the question about it, right, that is rightly a question that some people might have is like, does reading this book actually inspire people to get out there and to try to build something? And I think this is why you do get a lot of people who be like, don't read Sakai, read, Marx and Lenin. To some extent, like what I would say is no, read both, read all of it, and read a bunch of other stuff too. But as we've talked about, it's definitely a critical history to the extent that he's factually incorrect on things. Like I would love to see somebody actually spend time trying to like parse that out and to point out there are a couple areas I've seen like people dig into some of like the labor statistics or like his analysis of class formation and early settler America and so on, and like that's fine, like that's interesting. But I think that the overarching points that he's making are ones that everybody kind of has to reckon with, especially white folks that are on the left. And I think the other point about that he's making that's important is for black and brown people or for other oppressed people, other oppressed nations, like what he argues ultimately is for considerations of tactical and strategic unity. So he's like not saying like never work with settler leftists or never do this. He's saying like we have our own goals and aspirations and visions of self-determination and kinds of politics that we're pursuing, and we should engage with other groups where it makes sense on a tactical level and where it makes sense on a strategic level. And sometimes it may only make sense tactically, but it doesn't make sense strategically, in which case it should be a kind of shorter term kind of arrangement. And you should understand the limitations of that. But that's what he's saying is he's saying, and this actually does come out of BLA stuff a little bit, is one of his arguments is that the trajectory and the aspirations of the white left are different than they are for other oppressed nations within the United States. So he's not saying that at times they can't complement each other or they can't work alongside. I do have my own feelings about whether everybody should be organizing within national groupings. I don't actually necessarily always think that's best, especially for white folks, because there's a lot of organizing of white people within national groupings and it doesn't usually go that well. So there are some, I think, organizing problems that have to be kind of sorted out and analyzed when you're thinking about a text like this. Does this mean that white people should go over here and organize for their like white nationalist socialists project? Like that sounds a little bit concerning on some level, right? Again, like it gets a little bit of a cartoon at some point. Like this is really not what he's arguing, but that's like the kind of stuff that people will say to dismiss him, right? And so I think what is important is him just saying like it is really important for organizations